Hey there guys, how you all doing? Welcome to this new series on my channel. This series is going to be mainly focused on how to do Let's Plays on YouTube. But because this series is called How to YouTube, I'm gonna try to keep this as general as possible, so you can use it for whichever type of videos you want to create on YouTube. I'm gonna try to be as simple as possible in this series, but there's gonna be a lot of details which I think are kind of good to know, but you don't really need to know. So let's start off. So this first video is going to be covering what kind of hardware do you need, which is your PC, your microphone, and so on and so on. And then we're going to be covering the software part, which is going to be all about recording and editing video and audio material. So we're going to talk about hardware. There's always going to be a link in the description to the stuff I'm using, so you can check that stuff out, and also you're going to really know what I'm talking about. First of all, you're gonna need your own PC. If you don't want to record gameplay, or if you don't want to record your screen at all, that's fine. You're still gonna need a PC to edit your video material and your audio material. So you may think, if you don't record gameplay material, or if you don't record your screen at all, well, then I don't need that good of a gear, right? But here's the thing, editing needs more power than recording something. So if you want to edit fast and you don't want to sit there waiting for your PC to pre-render like 10 seconds of your video so you can watch how it looks like, well, you want to get that gear, you know? So I'm gonna tell you my recommended specs now. So here we go. First of all, the heart of your PC is your CPU or your processor. Just be sure to buy one of the latest generations. Doesn't matter if it's Intel or AMD. I myself prefer Intel over AMD, but that's just a personal preference. So if you're buying AMD, just get something similar, powerful to an i5, or preferably even an i7 or something equal to an i7. Then your RAM or random access memory. You want to have at least 8 GB, preferably 16. I used to have 8, but I usually edit my videos in 1080p, and 8 GB was not enough for that. Just get one of the latest generations. Right now that would be DDR4 or DDR3. Doesn't really matter right now because there's not much that of a difference between DDR4 and DDR3. Then your HDD or hard disk drive. That is usually where you store your operating system on, your applications, everything you have on your PC, your pictures or whatever. So now for gameplay recording, I would really recommend you to get a second hard drive just for recording. Because when you play a game and want to record it at the same time, that game is gonna use up the performance of your current HDD. So get an extra one for recording. It is just another nice thing to have. You can get an external hard drive as well. Doesn't matter, just be sure it's fast enough and you should be alright. Then your graphics card or GPU. You can get AMD or Nvidia, doesn't really matter, though I prefer Nvidia because it got Nvidia Shadowplay, and here is what it is. It can record your gameplay with 0% performance loss on the game. You're gonna have the same frame rate while recording as if you would not be recording. That's pretty nice to have. I don't think AMD has that right now. Also, you can set up Nvidia Shadowplay to always record your games while you're playing. And while you're playing a game and you think like you had an awesome moment in the last 5 minutes, you can just press a button on the keyboard and it will save those last 5 minutes to your hard drive. I just think that's really cool, and without performance loss, it doesn't really matter if you have it turned on or off. It's just there and it's nice to have. So that's about the PC specifications. What you maybe want to optionally get is a water cooling, and there's only one reason to it. If you have your PC in the same room, you record videos and it is running, it's gonna create noise. So if you have water cooling on it, it's gonna be a lot more silent and you cannot hear it that well on the recording. So if you're just building a PC and you've got the money, go for water cooling. It's also really nice to have. Next up, the microphone. Really, really important. I see a lot of stuff on YouTube which has crappy audio. The video is good, has like 4K resolution, but then the microphone is just shit. And I don't know what people are thinking. When I watch a video, I think the most important stuff about it is the audio. So be sure to get a good one. There are really cheap microphones out there which are good. What you maybe want to get if you have the money is a condenser microphone. What they tend to do is to make your voice recording warm and smooth, very crisp, so everybody can understand you, and at the same time you sound really nice. So get a condenser microphone if you want to have quality. You can get some good condenser microphones for under 100 euros. Just be sure to check on maybe test recordings if there are some on the internet, or like go through the reviews and just read what people are saying about it, so you're sure about what you're buying. Next thing you want to have, especially for voice recordings, is a pop filter. It is basically just something in front of your microphone to prevent loud noises from entering the microphone directly. So for example, if you have a lot of P noises or like S noises in a sentence and you don't have a pop filter on your microphone, then it can be very uncomforting for whoever listens to your recording. If you buy yourself a microphone, you want to know how it connects to your PC. A lot of newer microphones tend to have USB cables. I myself prefer microphones with XLR cables, but there's something extra you're gonna need if you have a microphone with an XLR cable. Usually you're gonna need a microphone amplifier which puts 48 volt phantom power onto your microphone. That may sound really technical right now, but it's actually really simple. What the microphone amplifier does, it amplifies the signal of your microphone. Without the microphone amplifier, you would not be able to hear a thing. There's gonna be a link in the description to what I'm using, so if you wanna check that out. Also, if you decide to spend a little bit more money on a microphone amplifier, it's gonna have some nice stuff built in, like a real-time compressor and maybe an equalizer. But that is just something extra, so if you don't wanna spend the money on it, don't do it, and you're gonna be still fine. Next up, if you wanna record facecam, you're of course gonna need a camera. Over the years, I've been using webcams, I've been using a DSLR camera, and now I'm back to a very decent webcam actually. If you really want to have high quality, you're gonna need to buy a DSLR camera or something very similar. Just be sure that the DSLR camera is meant to record videos, because most of DSLR cameras are not meant for video recording. Most DSLR cameras are gonna be meant to capture really high quality pictures, but are not meant for video recording. So what you can go with is just a webcam with at least 30 frames per second and at least 720p resolution. Whatever webcam you buy, pay attention, because a lot of times it will say this camera can have 60 frames per second and it can have like 1080p resolution. And then when you buy it, you go home and you try to record it in 1080p 60 fps, it doesn't work. You're sitting there with 15 FPS 1080p and you're asking yourself, what the fuck is going wrong? There's actually nothing going wrong, it's just that the webcam can have 60 FPS but not at 1080p. It may be able to sustain those 60 FPS at 480p or something like that. So be sure that this camera can at least sustain the 30 FPS at 720p. Also, if you're recording facecam or if you're recording a vlog or whatever, you want to make sure that people can see you correctly, so really pay attention to lighting. You can use whatever lamp you got standing around, or you decide to buy an LED light, or if you got the space and the money for it, you can get a softbox, which is gonna make the recording usually look really professional. Next up, your monitor. If you play games, 1080p, 60 Hz, that's usually the minimum. I don't have it myself, but I would recommend you to get a 144 Hz monitor. I mean, your recordings are not gonna be in 144 Hz because YouTube only supports 60 frames per second at maximum. But for playing, it makes a really big difference, especially if you're playing competitive games like Counter-Strike or Overwatch. But also be sure that your gear really supports this, because if you only get up to 50 frames per second on your game and you have a 144 Hz monitor, well, then you just wasted your money on a really expensive monitor. Something optional again, if you want to record console gameplay, you're gonna need a capture card for that. There's also gonna be a link in the description to the one I'm using. Just be sure it can record 1080p at 60 frames per second and you should be fine. 30 frames per second can also be fine, because usually console games only have 30 frames per second anyways. Then of course you're gonna need a keyboard and a mouse. Get whatever you want, just be sure that it's not super loud. You don't want a lot of clicking noises in your recordings. There's a lot of brands out there. I myself prefer Rocket, and here is why. They sell the same stuff as all the other gaming brands, but they do so for a cheaper price. So if you want to get some good gaming gear for a cheap price, buy Rocket. Not sponsored, by the way. The last thing about hardware, which is not really about hardware, but it kinda is. Because your surroundings are really important. Surroundings, aka the area you are recording your videos in. Just be sure that you record in a silent area. You know, you don't want to have cars outside your window honking every 10 seconds. Also, if you have neighbors, you don't want to hear them screaming or doing kinky stuff. All that stuff, you don't want that in your recording. I mean, depends on what you're recording, I guess. But usually you don't want to have this stuff in your video. You can change a lot of things with acoustic treatment, but just be sure that the area you're recording in is silent in the first place, because that can save you a lot of money. I'm not gonna talk too much about this because I myself don't have a lot of knowledge about acoustic treatment. But if you're recording something and you have the feeling it sounds really echoey, you can do something about it. You can get some acoustic treatments like acoustic foam and you can put it on to the walls in your recording area and it's gonna reduce that echo. I'm also gonna leave some links in the description on the stuff I'm using for acoustic treatment, so you can check that out. But acoustic treatment really depends on the area you're recording in, so play around. Just play around with acoustic treatment and you will get a feeling for it. And also don't put too much acoustic treatment, because if you put too much, you're gonna have no echo at all and it's gonna make your voice sound very unnatural. So just like I said, play around with it and you're gonna get to the point where you can say, this is how I want my recording to sound like. Alright, so that's all about the hardware part. The software part is gonna be a lot shorter. First of all, audio recording. Audacity. That's the name. You wanna get that program, get it, download it. It's the best and the freest out there you can get. As I said, it's for free. You can record audio with it, you can remove background noises with it, and you can edit your audio with it. So get that one. Next up, video recording or game capture. As I said earlier in this video, if you have an NVIDIA card, you can use Shadowplay. If you have an AMD card, I think there is an AMD program to record gameplay. Or what I do myself, I use Bandicam to record for Let's Plays. I usually got Shadowplay on, but I just use it for the shadow recordings as I explained before. Like when something cool happens, I can just hit a button on my keyboard and it's gonna save those last 5 minutes. So why am I using Bandicam myself? I'm using Bandicam because I can record in a really high quality. I'm recording in an almost uncompressed format, which is making the quality really high on the recording, so I can zoom out on stuff in the gameplay and it's still gonna look nice. So if you wanna have that, get Bandicam or get a similar program. Bandicam is not for free, but it's pretty cheap. It's like 20 bucks I think. Or you can get Fraps. Whatever you wanna have. If you already got a recording program and you're happy with the recordings, just stick with it. It's basically as well a personal preference. Also there's OBS on the list, which is the open broadcaster software, usually used for streaming, but you can also record locally. So I myself cannot record gameplay with it, but that is because I'm recording my facecam with it. But also a really good program. If you want to have something for free, check this program out. And last but not least, the video editing software. There is a shit ton of video editing softwares out there. If you wanna have the best for free, I would say it's Lightworks. It gets praised on the internet a lot, 10 out of 10 reviews and all that stuff. I never used it myself, so I cannot recommend it to you. But according to the internet, you should check it out if you want something for free. What I'm using myself is Premiere Pro, which is the Adobe version of video editing, and I really like it. Also there's Sony Vegas, which is from Sony, obviously. So it's the Sony version of video editing. If you're already stuck to one of these programs, don't change around if you're happy with it. Most of the times it depends on personal preference anyways on which software you're gonna use. If you think I forgot about anything or you have questions, detailed questions about equipment, leave them down in the comment section. And if there are some questions, I'm gonna make another video about equipment and I'm gonna try to answer these questions. So that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. There's gonna be a subscribe button popping up. Be sure to hit that. Also, there's gonna be a video popping up if you wanna check that out. And I shall see you on the next one.